my mom and dad were separated, like I was saying, and my dad used to get me on weekends.
Okay.
So when he would get me, I think I was probably about 6. The first time I drank, he used to get me drunk. He thought it was funny.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Coffee with Kuda. Today I'm here with Jocelyn. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Yeah.
First of all, before we start, I would like to, my name is Jocelyn. My traditional name is Midnight Star. I am from the Driftpile Cree Nation in northern Alberta, Treaty 8. And I would like to honor the traditional territory of the Salish and Coast Salish people. We usually do this before we speak to honor the land where we work, live, and play on of the traditional people. So thank you for allowing me to do this for the people of British Columbia.
Oh man, it's our honor to have you here. Thank you so much for taking the opportunity to come and speak with us. Yeah, it's second attempt after I failed one. However, everyone is busy, right? And I understand that. But your willingness to come back, it really tells me how much this means to you. So I just want to say that it means a lot, really. We do this because we work with youth who are coming from the low income families, coming from refugee families. So we just want to really educate them and hopefully get them to understand the challenges that people face, right here. So, and I think your story was so powerful to learn about, and I hope the world will appreciate it.
Thank you.
So you were born in North Alberta? Northern Alberta?
In northern Alberta. And then we moved to Edmonton when I was young. And then I moved to BC in 1996.
In 96?
Yes.
That's quite recent. How old were you then?
Oh, in my 20s.
In your 20s?
Yes.
Why the move to BC from Alberta?
It was because my family is from there.
Okay.
And there, I am a 4th generation alcoholic.
Okay.
So because of the residential school and all the abuse and the violence and the intergenerational trauma from that, I wanted to raise my kids different. I wanted to have a better life for them. So I thought by moving them out of the environment, it would make things better, but it didn't.
We will get into that. We will. So tell me, growing up, you had both parents at home?
No, my mom and dad, they separated when I was very young.
Okay.
My dad was a drug dealer and my mom was an alcoholic.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many siblings do you have?
There's 7 of us.
7 of you, right? Yeah.
Yeah, there's 5 now.
There's 5 now, okay.
Yeah.
Are you the oldest, youngest?
Second oldest.
Second oldest, yeah. I would like for everyone to just understand, when did substance become an issue in your life, and when did you realize that I'm using more than I should be using?
The first time my mom and dad were separated, like I was saying, and my dad used to get me on weekends.
Okay.
So when he would get me, I think I was probably about 6. The first time I drank, he used to get me drunk. He thought it was funny to see me drunk. So I would puke all over myself, and my stepmom would clean me up and put me to bed. I remember that. She was great. But yeah, so that was basically my childhood, right? And when I was at home with my mom, because I was the oldest daughter, right? So I did the cooking and the cleaning, the taking care of my brothers and sisters. I did the laundry. So I was like a miniature mom,
Okay,
right?
yeah,
While she drank and did her thing, right? So
I want to understand, because it sounds like your dad wasn't necessarily an addict. He was a functioning addict, or no?
he was a functioning alcoholic, I guess you could say, because he did work.
He did work.
Yeah.
Okay. And he remarried, right? Because
Yeah,
you had a
yeah.
stepmom, yeah.
Yeah.
The idea of him buying you alcohol and getting you to drink, what was it coming from?
It didn't seem like he thought there wasn't anything wrong with it. So it was just normal in our world, right?
Right.
Like everybody's got their own concept of normal. In our
Correct.
world, that was normal
That was the normal
for
part
us,
of it,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So you were introduced at 6 years old to alcohol already, yeah. And you're
Yeah.
going to visit them every weekend, right,
Yeah.
your dad? So alcohol became already a norm in your life.
Yeah.
What's life like with your mom's side? Because now you have responsibility on that's two different levels.
Yeah, yeah, it was two
understanding. It's
different
crazy.
worlds, definitely.
Yeah, so what is it like at home with mom and your siblings?
So, like I was saying, I was cooking, I was cleaning, I was taking care of my 5 brothers and sisters. And then my mom, she drank quite a bit, and she did her thing, right? So, and then she would come back and there would be parties going on and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Okay, so how are you managing in school with all these responsibilities?
I was an above average kid,
Okay.
right? So my marks were really high because it was, I didn't want anybody to notice that we were too different, right? So that's what I mean. Like my brothers and sisters, like we looked normal on the outside, but like if you entered the doors of our house, it was like total chaos, right? So it was, yeah.
Tell me, what is chaos at home? Just briefly tell me about it.
So we were like, my mom would party, and then we would get up, we would be walking all over drunk people, and like bottles all over the place, and whatever else. And then and then I would get my brothers and sisters ready for school. I would feed them whatever we had, right? And then we would go to school, and then we would come home, and then there would be another party still going on. Yeah.
Man.
So it was just, and the thing is, it was, like I said, I'm 4th generation, so this is the way my mom grew up, and this is the way her mom grew up. So, I mean, it was our normal, right? So, yeah. And like with all my relatives and stuff, it was pretty much the same. Like if I went over to my cousin's house, they were partying there too. So I mean, it wasn't.
And this is still in Alberta, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My family's still in Alberta.
Okay. Do you finish high school?
I went up to grade 11.
You went up to grade 11.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's a lot of responsibilities before grade 11.
Yeah.
Hey?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so tell me, what happened in grade 11 for you to not finish high school?
I got pregnant.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. High school sweetheart? Briefly, not too much details, but just tell me about your boyfriend, I guess.
Shane's dad, I met him on the reserve,
Okay.
right? So, I mean, there was powwow going on. I think it was on the reserve or at it was at the Friendship Center in Edmonton.
Okay.
So I went to a dance and we met and we started dating for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Does the relationship last long?
No, not very long. No.
So you have one child, and then do you go back to finish school after the child is born?
I left school when I was pregnant with Shane, they asked me to leave because it didn't look good, right? So I went to a school for unwed mothers, which was really weird. So they had the school upstairs, and then downstairs they had the daycare.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was really, it was good, right?
Had you started using before the child was born? Like, I know you were drinking with dad, but were you considering yourself as an addict already, or were you just a casual drinker?
Oh no, I drank.
You drank a lot, yeah.
Drank a lot.
Okay. So the child, now you're pregnant, you stop drinking.
Yeah.
The child is born.
Yeah.
Do you then say to yourself, let me get serious with school, or do you just go back to drinking?
I tried, because like with Shane, my oldest son, I moved out. And then I did my best to maintain my sobriety, but it was like my brothers and sisters were all drinking, and then my family was drinking, and then I had my own place, so they were all coming over with alcohol, and so I just continued that life.
You told me before your mom got sober at some point.
She sobered up when I was 15.
When you were 15?
14 or 15, yeah.
Okay. Did your drinking get better or worse?
It got worse.
It got worse?
Yeah.
I like the reasoning behind your story over there. If you can tell the world, why did it get worse when your mom was sober? Because I know you said your mom was explaining, listen, here's where I was. I don't want you to go that side.
Yeah, so when my mom quit drinking, she was going to AA, and she was doing, so she started being a mom, right? She said, it's okay, Jocelyn, you can go and be a teenager now. You can go be a kid. But I didn't know how. I didn't know how to be a kid. I knew how to cook and clean and take care of everything. I didn't know how to
be a kid.
Be something else. Right?
And then your mom takes over these roles that you have at home.
So she took over my role and said, go be a kid. And I didn't know how, but I knew how to drink and be irresponsible because so basically I took over her role, right? And so I was...
That is so important to quite understand that when she took over this role, she didn't transition you into being a teenager who can continue being responsible, but yet be successful as a teenager. It's just like, well, now I'm the mother, I take over this, have fun. But the fun part is what takes you down in a way.
Yeah, it took me. And then,
Okay, so your child was born, you are out now.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us what happens as you progress. When does, because you pick up drinking again, how do things turn for the worse or for the better?
So right after my oldest son was born, it was like I was trying, I didn't know how to be a mom, right? I didn't know how to raise my kids because nobody taught me how, right? Nobody showed me how. I knew how to live in the world of alcoholism, and I knew how to function in the dysfunctional world, but I didn't know how to function in the normal world, right? So I mean, I still worked, and I still, I was trying to live in two worlds, but was failing at both.
What were you doing for work?
I was a waitress.
Okay.
Right, so yeah, that was good.
And did this job help you? Did this job help you find ways to be better, or do you think you ran into more people who use substances in the workplace?
Oh, I meant more people that, because like people attract like people, right? So I would attract people that drank and used and were wounded as much as I was. So I mean, we would just sort of like drink and start using drugs together and so on and so forth, right? And then, yeah.
When was the second child born? How old were you?
He was born in 1984.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, because I wanted to ask, you had picked up alcohol. What other substances did you pick up?
I did cocaine and crack.
Okay.
And when I was younger, when I was around 18, I was introduced to the poor man's high. They called it in Edmonton. It's T's and R's.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
But otherwise, your substance of choice were crack cocaine.
Yeah.
Okay. And how long do you, at what age exactly? So from 17 you started to really pick it up, or?
I probably started using crack when I was, about 19.
About 19?
Yeah.
So now you're mixing crack and alcohol
Yeah. Yeah, my alcohol decreased.
when you're using crack cocaine?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Were you better functioning?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. At what point, or do you ever pick up heroin while you're in Alberta?
No.
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 Okay. And your second child is born while you're still in Alberta?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us about your relationship with your second child's father.
He he was a drug dealer.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, so I could,
You could use more.
yeah. And
Yeah.
then I could still work, and his job was totally different. So, yeah, and then I could still take the kids to school and do whatever, yeah.
Does that relationship last long?
No. He ended up owing a lot of money to some not so good people. So he ended up leaving and going to Ottawa.
So he left you.
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't tell me, he just left.
I think it's part of the reality that lies in that world that some of us may not quite be aware of, right?
Yeah.
That you found love, however, some other things become more priority
Yeah.
than the love in the child, and
Everything
they
else.
leave,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Then now you're left in a position where you are looking after your children by yourself again.
Yeah.
Okay. So you now have 2 children, and there's no father in the house.
Oh.
How are they managing with school and you having to work?
My brothers and sisters are obviously getting older, so they're babysitting for me and they're taking care of me. They're taking care of
Your children.
my kids, yeah.
So despite the dysfunction, there was love and support.
Oh, yeah.
Correct.
With my brothers.
With those siblings, right?
Yeah.
What makes you leave Alberta since you have so much support there?
I just wanted to try to find a better life for my kids.
Okay.
Right? I moved right after my youngest son was born here.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the betterment of their upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
You land in Surrey or Vancouver?
Yeah, I landed up in Surrey. I had family here.
Okay.
My Auntie Rita was here. Yeah.
So your children, you come here. How is their, or maybe how are you feeling in a new environment? You're very hopeful, right? Because you
Yeah.
made this big move, huge. What are the first couple of months or the first year like for you now that you arrive here? Do you get a job? Do you go to school? What happens?
So I stayed with my Auntie Rita for a little while, and then I found a 2-bedroom place, and then we set the kids up in school and everything, right?
Yeah.
So they were doing pretty good. We were adjusting okay. But I was, even though I still had a little bit of family, I was still lonely. So of course, I went to the bar.
Okay.
So yeah, so I went to the bar and made new friends.
Made new friends.
Yeah.
Wow. And this is out of loneliness.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Now, what happens? Now you find yourself in the bar again. Had you been sober for a while?
Off
Or
and
just
on. Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
What happens now that you go into the bar? You start drinking again. You meet new friends. Does it just pick up right where you left off?
Pretty much, right? Because like I was saying, like attracts like, right? And we can spot each other. Like we just magnets towards each other, addicts, right? And alcoholics. So yeah, we just like found each other and then just drinking and using.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So right back to the old ways, but different crowd.
A different crowd. Okay. And you pick up crack cocaine again?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you pick up any other substances?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No.
Okay. So let's walk through then. Okay. Your children are settling well in school.
They're doing okay.
They're doing
Yep.
okay. At what point do things turn sideways? Because it sounds like you tried your best to keep it under control.
Yeah.
Right. Your children,
Yeah.
do they tell you're drinking a lot? Can they tell? Especially your older one.
Yeah, my oldest one. He was getting tired because I gave him the role I had.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he said, Mom, he goes, I want to be a kid. He goes, I'm tired of raising my brothers.
Wow.
He said, can I go to see my dad?
And where's Dad?
Back in Alberta.
In Alberta.
Right? So I called his dad up because he still had a relationship with him. So I called his dad up and he agreed to take him as long as he needed to, right? So my oldest one went back.
How old was he at that time?
He was 10.
He was 10.
Yeah.
And he's saying, I'm tired of looking after my brothers.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. You had a third child by this time?
Yeah.
Okay.
3 boys. Yeah.
3 boys. The third child was born when you were in BC?
No, in Edmonton.
In Edmonton as
Yeah.
well? Okay. And the father as well, is that the same father as the second child?
No.
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 So all children, there's no father to say, hey Dad, let's support the children.
No.
Wow. Which makes sense why the fifth child is like, well, there's 2 children I'm trying to look after.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So he goes at 10 years old. And now you have these 2 left.
Yeah.
How are you mentally though? Because you lose your son who's supporting you as well. Yeah. How are you feeling at that time?
I was very proud of him for saying that to me, and it was a realization, right?
Right.
But the realization didn't last long enough,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that you have your 2 children now, you're able to... What are you doing for work in Surrey? Surrey, right?
I'm on income assistance.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that because you couldn't get a job or because you got right back into addiction?
Yeah, I got right back into my addiction.
Right.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I had the supports I had in Edmonton, right? So I had my brothers and sisters there so I could work and they would watch the kids.
When you're here, you don't have that support.
I don't have that support.
Yeah.
So I can't.
When, because I know when you told me you were doing all this to avoid the ministry taking your children, right? But I think at some point it ends up happening. I'm trying to fast forward slowly to that point. Right now you're using crack cocaine, you're drinking. What happens?
Shane, oh sorry, my oldest son leaves. And shortly after, they do end up in care
Why?
because he's not watching them.
Right. So do you leave your children by themselves sometimes, eh?
Yeah, I left them alone.
Who reports you?
One of my neighbors, which is a blessing in disguise.
A blessing in disguise, yeah. Yeah. How does your neighbor know you're leaving your children alone? Are you guys friends or like what's happening?
I leave, but there's nobody else there.
And they can just tell.
Yeah, they can tell.
Wow.
Yeah.
At this point, you haven't touched heroin yet.
No.
Just crack cocaine and alcohol.
Yeah.
Your children go. How do you feel and how does that affect your life? I'm asking, do you say, I promise I'll sober up? Or are you saying, now that you've taken my children, you've taken everything?
Yeah. They've taken my children, they've taken everything, so I just went downhill from there.
So we need to continue from that point on in less than a minute. We're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
That's okay. Welcome back again, everyone. We're still sitting here with Jocelyn. You were saying your children got taken in by the ministry when a neighbor reported you.
Yeah.
You saw it as at the time, you're unhappy, pissed off,
Yeah.
but as you're saying it in hindsight, blessing in disguise.
Yes.
Tell me your journey after your children were taken away from you.
After my children ended up in care, I lost my home and ended up on the downtown east side
Wow.
for 2 years, where I started using heroin.
That's when you picked it up.
Cocaine, and I called it, usually call it multiple addiction disorder, right? So basically whatever you had to numb my pain, I used, right? Wow. So, but I still kept in contact with my lawyer. So what happened is I called my lawyer, my children were going CCO, which means they were going to go up for adoption.
Wow.
And then I went into shock, started crying, and this was the day before Christmas. No, wait, about 3 days before Christmas I had called my lawyer. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to have one last right? So on Christmas, I was at the Bill Morrow, right? So I had a lot of friends, and they were like, Merry Christmas, JC, right? And then they would give me some down, and I would put it in my rig and give it a shake, right? Put it in my pocket, right? Merry Christmas, give me some more, give it a shake, put it in my pocket. So I wasn't paying attention.
Wow.
To how much I was using, or how much was going in there, right? And so.
And this is heroin or fentanyl?
Heroin.
Heroin,
right?
okay.
So I walked down by the Princess Rooms, and I sat down, and then I did my shot. And then I went under, and I overdosed. And so it was like in '96, so it wasn't like it is now. It was like the Pulp Fiction thing, right? So, so when the ambulance came, they gave me that shot, and I came to, but before I came to, I had died for a few minutes or a few seconds, I believe, because I saw this beautiful white light, beautiful, and it was like love. It was like I was going towards love, like the love you imagine, amplify that by 1,000, and that's what I was going into, and I wanted to go in there, but I got pushed back, and whatever the entity was, the spirit was, says, we're not done with you yet, right? So I got pushed back, and then when I came to, it came to, and I had this thing in me, and I started crying, right? Because what a way my kids would be remembering Christmas, like their mom dying. Their mom would die on Christmas. So I hugged the ambulance drivers. I was extremely grateful. And then I found a recovery house. And then my journey began. I got, after going to court and everything else like that, I got my kids back. They were so close to being adopted out too.
Really?
So, yeah.
Oh man. I just want to recap a little bit. You literally go under.
Yeah.
So all this heroin that you were keeping and keeping and keeping,
It was a lot.
it was a lot.
It was a lot.
However, you did it in one shot.
Yeah, one shot.
That was it.
That was it.
You're under and you see a light.
Yeah.
You accepting the light.
Yeah.
You're not scared.
No, I'm not scared at all.
I'm trying to think. There are a lot of people who say, if that was me, like, I'll be like running away from the light, A, B, C, D, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe because they enjoy life so much, but I feel like maybe you suffered through so much and they're finally like, I'm at peace.
Yeah.
A spirit says, I'm not done with you yet.
Yeah.
Go back.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an experience that no one can even
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that you're back,
Yeah.
you're hugging this
With this thing in my ear.
Right. I just want to also make a point that most people who do get a shot of Narcan these days,
Yeah.
sometimes they're coming out of the OD
Yeah.
angry, like, I was
Oh,
enjoying
yeah.
this, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at most times this happens a lot, because
Yeah.
I've had to Narcan a couple of people.
Yeah.
But you, in a way, got Narcan-ish, but you come out with joy, like,
Yeah.
wow. Only because you realize that I'm glad my kids don't have to suffer for the rest of their life.
Yeah. That would have been horrible.
Way to remember Christmas.
Yeah.
Okay, so you come out of it, you manage to talk to your lawyers,
Yep.
and somehow they're able to convince the system that she's ready to look after her children.
Yeah. So, I mean, I had to keep going to court, keep going to court, keep going to court. And then I went to survivors of childhood abuse and trauma, survivors of incest, survivors of childhood torture. And then I did traditional parenting and a whole bunch of healing work. So
That's what I really want to people to understand, that you did go for trauma counseling.
yeah, oh yeah,
And different versions of them as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
Because although we didn't go into too much details about it, but there's a lot of trauma that you faced growing up.
yeah,
It took the counseling to really, really help.
yeah.
It wasn't just your will desire, it wasn't just praying, it wasn't just, but counseling really played a huge
Yeah.
part.
Yeah, it did, and a lot of the traditional ways too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So it took seeking help, legit.
Oh yeah.
Not just going to recovery house, it's not
No.
good enough.
No. It was.
How long is how long are the counseling sessions for? Or how long does it take to finish one course, perhaps? I don't know.
Oh, they're different, right? And it depends what you need.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it's not something you can do in a rush, though. You can't just say.
It's still continuing.
Of course.
Right. I'm
Wow.
still doing
Wow.
doing the work. Right.
That's important to
Yeah.
hear. Okay, so you get your children back.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever lose them again, or that was it?
Nope, that was it.
I hear you. Okay. Walk me through the recovery process now, because you've gone through trauma counseling.
Yeah.
You've gone to a recovery house,
Treatment.
treatment centers.
Yes. Round Lake Treatment Center.
Yeah.
Love it. Sorry.
That's okay. So you go to a treatment center, you love it, everything goes well.
Yeah.
I do want to say that also, because people who come on our show, they like to tell me that recovery is not easy.
Mm-mm.
You do go through relapse moments. You do go through temptation. So it's a constant fight.
Yep.
But your relapse is a little bit interesting and different. You relapsed once, your first time. Tell me
Yes.
about it.
The first time I relapsed, I think I had about 6 weeks clean.
Okay.
So I got a weekend pass because I was doing so good. So I went back to the downtown east side. There was my best friend there. Her name was Crystal. We took care of each other, right? Like when we would get high, we would take care of each other, or if we didn't have what each other needed, right, we would share drugs and stuff. But I really missed her because she was my friend and I loved her. So when I went to go look for her, we started using together. And so we used the whole night, and then I had to go back to I wanted to go back to the recovery house. And I was trying to bring her with me. And she didn't want to come. So I told her, I said, I still have to go. I said, but I want you to know I love you. And I will be praying for you, right? And you know where I am if you need me, right? So, and then I left and she stayed.
Wow. You go back, do you tell your recovery house that you used or no?
Yeah, I told him right away, right? And then I told the woman why, too. And she said, well, you know, it doesn't matter why, you're still in restrictions, right? So I was back on restrictions again. So. But that was okay, right? Like I was willing to accept that.
Why I like that story is that there are a lot of people who go through, and I see this a lot, who go through treatment centers, they do well. And the first thing that comes to their mind is to help the guys who are left in the streets.
Yeah.
And what I struggle with to accept, not to accept really, but I struggle to just realize that you're trying so hard, but that other person is just not ready yet.
Yeah.
However, this is all you care about in that moment. Please come back, please come back. It must have been a tough moment for you though to realize, look, I have to leave you.
Yeah.
But I want you to know I love you.
Yeah.
At the same time, I have to do this for my kids.
Yeah.
So I'm going back.
I'm going back.
Does Crystal ever get clean?
Not that I know of.
Not that you know of.
No.
Man. Second time you relapse.
Oh, I was with my sister. Yeah. it didn't work. I had a couple months, and I went and saw her, and we started drinking together, and I
Right.
realized this is why, no, this is not working.
Is that now better?
Huh?
Did you go to Alberta or?
Oh,
she
no,
came?
she moved here.
She moved here.
Yeah, because when I moved here, 3 of my siblings followed
Oh,
me.
nice, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so you went to hang with your sister.
Yeah.
You end up drinking.
Yeah.
Does your sister realize, like, okay, she's done, I guess she's leaving, she won't be drinking anymore?
Yeah. They don't think there's a problem.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I guess because you have more to lose, you understand that this is a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you only drink that one night and
Yeah.
never again.
And then I go back to the recovery house. Oh, I owned it. And yeah.
Any punishment in the recovery house for you?
Yeah, I got put on restrictions again. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that your last time to relapse?
Yep.
Yeah. So you've been clean for how long now?
Since June 23rd, 1996.
Wow.
Yeah. It's been a journey.
Wow.
Yeah.
I do have to say though, you are still doing your counseling sessions.
Yeah.
You are currently working with vulnerable people.
Yes.
What other steps or methods do you take to maintain sobriety?
I usually go to ceremonies. Every morning I wake up, I smudge, and then I pray and thank the Creator for another day of life, right?
Every morning.
Every morning. Yeah. And then everything I'm grateful for. Right?
You told me before, and I just want to throw this in there, about most people who come from the reserves, they tend to lean towards heroin a lot.
Yeah, it's just an observation I noticed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just a
This is
personal
just
opinion.
yeah. So I noticed during my journey that a lot of First Nations people will use heroin more, right?
Okay.
And they drink and then they use heroin more because it's more of an opiate, right?
Right,
It's more of a
right.
number, right? So, yeah.
I just threw that in there just because I feel like it was for me it was a revelation in terms of like you said you're coming from a background where fourth generation of alcoholics,
Yeah.
right? So alcohol is the only thing that you guys know, and in a way it's partly a stimulant but mostly a down as well,
Yeah.
alcohol. So when it comes to substances, people tend to go for those
Yeah.
that do, say, more like a down, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's sort of like the...
just a stronger version of
Yeah, yeah.
of alcohol.
Yeah.
That was important to know. You told me that you go to conferences once in a while, but there was a nice little story that you shared
Oh, okay. Yeah.
about at a conference. What happened?
So at my first job after I finished school, they sent us to an Indigenous women's conference, right? And it was such an honor to be chosen to go. So on the first day of the conference, we had our drums and everything else, so they pulled us together, and there was 400 or 500 of us, right? And we were all from different walks of life, right? We were counselors, we were support workers, executive directors, lawyers aides, from traditional healers from all walks of life, right? So the woman who brought together the conference, she went up to speak, right? And she says, the first thing she said to us was, anybody not suffering from abuse or that hasn't suffered from abuse, put up your hand. Nobody put up their hand. Anybody who has not suffered from childhood trauma, put up their hand. Nobody put up their hand. Anybody who has not suffered from sexual abuse, put up your hand. And nobody put up their hand. So out of like 400 women, Aboriginal First Nations women, nobody put up their hand.
Why I found that so important to be shared is that these are little things that we don't realize, except for the person who's gone through it.
Yeah.
So now we are looking at an individual and we can make judgments. We talk about this, we make up our own stories. Why don't these people do A, B, C, D?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're in that room and then you realize out of all those people, none could put their hand up and say, I've never been. I hope it gives someone a different perspective of how they look at. I don't want to just say Aboriginal people only, but because we're talking about First Nations people in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully you can then look at First Nations people differently and say, well, yeah, maybe they've suffered things that I cannot fathom or even interpret in my head.
Yeah.
Jocelyn, throughout your journey, throughout everything you've been through, what message would you like to pass to people who are, to the society generally? Because our goal here, we kind of trying to show people that the individuals you see in the streets and then you're like, oh, that's a junkie, I don't want to be associated with them.
Yeah.
Or that you say, just say no to drugs. We won't have a drug problem, right?
Yeah, that doesn't, no.
What would you say to society so they can maybe reduce stigma on individuals who are suffering?
It would be try to understand the addict, not the addiction.
Wow. Understand the addict, not the addiction.
Right, because each, like,
That's absolutely, that's coffee with Kuda in 2 sentences, I guess. Because the addiction is one thing, but the addict, there's a million of them, million stories.
yeah.
That is powerful. What would Jocelyn be without trauma, without a rough upbringing, without alcohol, without substances? How do you think, or what I'm asking is, what special talents or what are you intrigued by in life that you're like, had I not been using substances, if I'd gone proper education and I would have been A, B, C, D, what would Jocelyn have been?
Not me. My journey was hard and difficult, but it was mine.
Mm.
And I am so grateful for it. It makes me who I am.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I like that answer because another person once said, things I've been through, I would never wish it even on my worst enemy.
Mm-hmm.
But it made me who I am.
Yeah.
The amount of strength we learn from individuals who came from addiction,
Yeah.
it's incredible.
Yeah.
In Africa, there's a proverb that says, an elephant does not find its trunk too heavy for itself.
Right.
I look at an elephant's trunk, I'm like, yo, that's heavy.
Yeah, yeah.
The elephant doesn't find it.
No.
That is a powerful proverb. I keep it in my head because the where my parents came from, where I came from, A, B, C, D. But then, yeah, you come into a different environment and realize that, no, trust me,
Yeah.
it made me who I am.
Yeah.
Well, I'm honored to have you stop by here.
Thank you.
It's incredible, your stories. In a few months' time, I do hope that we can invite you to just come back and catch up on I would love to talk to you even further about just life after addiction.
Yeah.
That will be the next topic that I would just love for us to go into it.
Okay.
I know you're working with vulnerable people right now. I do know you've lost a cousin into violence. Was it a cousin or nephew?
I was taking care of my nephew
Was it
since he
nephew,
was
right,
like
yeah.
10 years old. And he was shot when he was 27.
Wow.
And then my son died 6 months after that.
I won't go further into it because you do have more to tell us when you come back.
Yeah.
The reason why, though, I do think that people must understand, just because this person fought addiction, there's still a past that's following them. There's still things they're fighting against.
Yeah.
All right. So you looking after your nephew is because you understand where you're coming from and where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Just because you're now clean doesn't mean everything becomes 100%.
No.
So that's why I would love to just talk about your life after addiction, your own challenges, your own successes, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. There's plenty to share.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to see you. Thank you so much. I just want to say I hope to see you here again. It's been a great time having you here. I hope you enjoyed your coffee.
It is good. Thank you.